Chapter 7. Dave Vargas and the team of scientists got in the vans and drove as close as they could to the spot where James Black was found. They brought along a large wagon that held a special airtight metal box. They expected to recover the meteorite and needed a way to safely transport it in case it was as toxic as expected. Dave thought it looked like a coffin. When they reached the correct location on the trail, the wagon needed to be left behind because traveling through the uncut forest was difficult for people alone. Pulling a wagon through the forest was virtually impossible. After everyone put on their masks, Dave led the group into the woods. He felt comfortable there. The forest was in his blood. He was literally born inside a national park. His father was a Mexican guardaparque, similar to an American park ranger. Since he spoke English well, he and a few other guard parks came to America for a 2-week cultural exchange program with the U.S. Park Service. American park rangers went to Mexico during that same time. Dave's father brought his pregnant wife with him for the 2-week trip. She wasn't due for a month, but she went into labor prematurely and had the baby inside the park. Since Dave was born in the United States, he was automatically a U.S. citizen. Because of that, he became fascinated with America. He practiced English whenever he could, and after finishing school, he moved to Texas to study forestry at a state college there. He paid for his education with some money his parents saved up for him, but mostly he worked his way through college as a waiter in a high-end seafood restaurant. When he started, he knew little about seafood, but he did know how to talk to people, especially women who tipped him very well. After about 10 minutes of walking, someone spotted something in the distance. When they got close, they saw it was Dr. Brown. Expecting they would find his body, they brought along a body bag. They put the body into the bag and zipped it closed. Dave did not want to split the group up, so they took the body back to the coroner's van together and continued back through the forest. After they passed the point where Dr. Brown was found, they passed an area devoid of tall trees. It seemed to run in a general north-south direction, like it was a road at one time, but nature had reclaimed it, especially to the north, where the clearing abruptly ended. From that small clearing, Dave spotted the broken treetops in the distance. They continued in that direction until they came upon the meteorite. The leader of the group was a middle-aged woman named Dr. Catherine Blake. When she saw the meteorite, she said, "It's hard to believe this little thing could cause so much death." "Little?" Dave said. "I bet it weighs 300 pounds. "It's all relative," Dr. Blake said. "Let's see how relative it is as we carry it back." Dr. Blake put a glove on it and said, "It's amazing, isn't it?" "Amazing?" Dave said. "What do you mean?" "I mean, just a few days ago, this thing was hurtling through space at a speed we can't even imagine. Now it is here waiting for us to take it away." "It is amazing if you think of it like that," Dave said, "but I expected it to look more interesting. I mean, it just looks like a rock." "Did you think it would have a green glow or something, like on television?" "I don't know what I expected," Dave said. "I just thought it would look different." They weren't there to analyze the meteorite on the spot. Their main objective was securing it and returning it to the lab. They had a tarp with them that they put on the ground next to the rock. Several of the men removed dirt from around the meteorite, rolled it onto the tarp, and then wrapped it. They also brought straps with them that movers sometimes use to help them lift heavy furniture. They slid 3 straps under the rock, and 6 men used the handles at the ends of each strap to pick the rock off the ground. They carried it through the woods, setting it down every 100 yards or so to rest. The way back was longer in distance because they had to take a zigzag pattern to avoid clumps of trees that were too narrow for the group to fit through. Dave and Dr. Blake led the group. 2 coyotes appeared before them when they came close to where they found Dr. Brown. They both started growling and howling. Dave put his hand out and said, "Be still." Coyotes usually avoid humans unless they feel threatened or are protecting their young. Since we came through here already, I doubt they are protecting their young, so they should go away if we don't threaten them. They all stood very still, but the coyotes continued to approach. Mike took out his can of pepper spray just as both coyotes ran towards them. He stepped in front of Dr. Blake and hit the lead animal in the face. It made a loud whining sound and fell to the ground. It got up and retreated, falling every few feet. The other coyote managed to get through and jumped onto Dave's chest. Dave lost his balance and fell to the ground. The coyote tried to bite his neck, but instead ripped his air hose in half. Catherine picked up the pepper spray that Dave dropped, pushed the coyote off him with her foot, and hit it in the face with the pepper spray. It, too, retreated like the first one. Dr. Blake then knelt and examined Dave's wounds. His face and neck were scratched and bleeding. The animal also managed to get its claws through all the layers of clothing and into Dave's chest. She determined the wounds were not life-threatening, but exposure to the air near the meteorite might be lethal. She picked up Dave's radio and said, "This is Dr. Blake. We have a medical emergency. A coyote attacked Ranger Dave. It bit through his air hose and caused multiple lacerations. We're bringing him in." She directed her group to wait until they were clear and then continue carrying the rock while she and the young woman from the group helped to get Dave to the waiting ambulance. He felt okay to walk, but Dr. Blake worried the excitement could speed up the coming adrenaline spike. They made it back to the trail, where 2 paramedics and a couple of rangers waited with a stretcher. Dave didn't want to be carried, but Dr. Blake insisted that he exert himself as little as possible. When they got him to the ambulance, Mike and Beth were there waiting. They had heard the call for help, and Mike feared his friend would end up like the others. "How's he doing?" Mike asked when they got close. "I'm fine," Dave said. "It's just a few scratches." "You don't feel anxious or excited?" Mike asked. "Not at all," he said. "They wrapped that rock in a tarp that must have contained all its bad mojo." Mike looked at the paramedics and asked, "Did you check his pulse?" One of them said, "Yes, it's normal." "Check it again," Mike said. The paramedic put his fingers on Dave's wrist and looked at his watch. After several seconds, he said, "It's still normal." "That's a relief," Mike said. "I was worried I'd have to make my own coffee." Everyone laughed before Dave was loaded into the ambulance. "Don't worry about me," Mike said. "I can make my own coffee for a day, maybe 2. The 2 men closed the door and then drove away. Mike noticed the 2 women who followed Dave out of the woods. "What the hell happened out there?" he asked. Dr. Blake spoke up and said, "Ranger Dave risked his life to save us. 2 coyotes attacked us, and he stepped in front of me and took the hit." Beth asked, "Are you in charge here?" "Yes, I am. I'm Dr. Catherine Blake." She shook hands with Beth and Mike. Beth took out a business card and said, "Please call me as soon as you learn what is wrong with that rock." Just then, they noticed the rest of the group come out of the woods, pulling the cart with the meteorite encased in its metal coffin. Dr. Blake said, "I have to go, but I will let you know." She met up with her group as they loaded the container into one of the vans. They then folded the cart and slid it next to the container. Mike and Beth watched as they piled into the 2 vans and drove away. "There go all our problems," Mike said. "Don't jinx it," Beth said. "Oh, don't tell me you're superstitious." "I am not superstitious. I'm just not arrogant enough to think that all my beliefs are 100% correct." "That's good. Having an open mind seems necessary for someone in your profession." "You would think," Beth said, "but it seems many of my colleagues are wedded to their beliefs. I think human nature is quite complex. We all want to be right, so we believe people who think like us and disbelieve people who think differently." "You are too young to be this wise." Beth smiled and said, "You are quite the smooth talker." "Only because I've been hanging around Dave too long." "Well, Mr. Dave Wannabe, don't you think it's time we eat something? I'm hungry." "You are reading my mind, young lady," Mike said. "How do you feel about hamburgers?" "I like hamburgers if they are made right. Do you know a good place to get burgers around here?" "I sure do," Mike said. "My place." "Your place? You mean the guy who can't make coffee is going to make us hamburgers?" "I can make coffee just fine. Dave just happens to be more of a morning person than I am." "Okay, Mike, let's go. Show me what you can do." They drove to Mike's cabin. When they arrived, Mike took out everything he needed. He formed 2 hamburger patties and put them in a pan on the stove. He then sliced a tomato while the burgers were cooking. When they were almost finished, he topped them with a slice of cheese. He took out 2 buns, added mayonnaise to the bottom of each one, and placed the hamburgers on top. He then added the tomatoes and lettuce before putting the top on. Beth sat at the small kitchen table and watched Mike cook. When finished, he brought the burgers to the table and sat across from her. Beth took a bite of her burger, but didn't say anything. "Well?" Mike asked. "Well, what? Do you like it?" "It's acceptable." "Acceptable? Really?" Beth smiled and said, "If you really need positive reinforcement, then yes, I like it. It is the best hamburger I've ever had in my life." "Are you like this with everyone, or am I special?" "You are special," Beth said before taking another bite of her hamburger. "I can see why you don't have a boyfriend," Mike said. "Oh, you should talk. At least none of my former boyfriends switched sides after dating me." Mike smiled, pointed a finger at Beth, and said, "You are so lucky, I can't think of a response to that. Luck has nothing to do with it. A man could never win an argument with a woman. I won't argue with you there." "That's funny," Beth said. "Did you make a joke, or were you just funny by accident?" "Yes," Mike said. When Beth finished her burger, Mike asked, "Would you like another?" "Oh no, one's enough for me," she said. She then added, "I have to maintain my girlish figure." Mike looked her up and down and said, "Whatever you are doing it exactly right." Beth stood up, looked at herself, and said, "Really? Really?" Beth put her hands on her stomach and said, "Don't you think I could stand to lose a few pounds?" Mike stood up and pretended to examine her closely, even though he already knew she had a perfect body. Anyone who couldn't see that was blind. But here was a woman who seemed to overflow with confidence in other areas of her life but couldn't see how pretty she was. I honestly can't see anything that I would want to change. However, if you want to lose a pound or 2, I can make you another hamburger, and we can work it off together. Mike stepped in closer, and Beth said, "What did you have in mind? A long walk on the trail?" "I was thinking of something a little closer," Mike said, before leaning in to kiss her. Beth kissed him back, and it soon became passionate. Mike slowly unbuttoned her blouse without removing his lips from hers. He then removed the blouse and unhooked her bra. Beth let the bra fall to the floor, and Mike stepped back to look at her. "You are so beautiful." This was happening just like Beth's dream. She wondered if she was dreaming again. They kissed again and eventually made their way to the bedroom, where they made love several times before the afternoon was out. As they lay together, Beth asked, "Are you going to get in trouble for taking a 4-hour lunch?" "Well, today was supposed to be my day off. Plus, I was assigned to be your guide, and technically, I think I guided you pretty well this afternoon. So that you know, I didn't need your guidance. I knew what I was doing." "You sure did," Mike said before kissing her again. Beth got out of bed and started picking up her clothes that were scattered throughout the cabin. "Are you going somewhere?" Mike asked. "Yes, you are going to drive me back to my cabin." "Already? I was hoping you would stay the night." "No, I have to pack my stuff and head back to Washington in the morning." "Stuff? What stuff?" "You have one small suitcase. You can pack it in 3 minutes." "Listen, Mike," Beth said. I like you. I like you a lot. I really do. I'm just not at a point in my life where I want to be in another relationship, especially a long-distance one." Mike looked disappointed but said, "Okay, I'll bring you back, but first, we should eat something. It's almost dinner time, and the only food you have in your cabin is junk food. I can take you out, or I can throw a frozen pizza in the oven. It's not the best dinner in the world, but it's what I have." "Okay, Mike, I am getting hungry, and you are right about the junk food. I think staying here and having a pizza with you sounds good." "Good," Mike said, taking the pizza out of the freezer. He turned the oven on, took the pizza out of the box, and placed it on a pizza stone that he took out of a cabinet. "You have a pizza stone," Beth said. "I'm impressed. I'm not going to lie, we probably eat pizza more than we should around here." When the oven was ready, Mike put the pizza in, sat next to Beth at the dining room table, and said, "You know, you might want to wait until we hear back from the EPA before you leave here." "I do plan on waiting," Beth said, "but I expect they will know something by the time we wake up tomorrow." "What if they say the meteorite is not toxic? What will you do then?" That's unlikely. Everything started when that meteorite hit the ground here, and all the incidents happened nearby. I know it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. I guess if the rock is not the problem, you might be stuck with me for a little longer. Mike smiled and said, I can think of worse fates. I bet you can, Beth said. Just don't expect a repeat of today. I am here on assignment, and I think it's best if we focus on work. I'll try, Mike said, but now that I know what you look like under your clothes, it will be hard not to think about that. Beth shook her head and said, Why do all you men have to be so visual? Because we're men, and we can't help it. In fact, I'm thinking about you right now. Stop. Think about baseball or something. Isn't that another thing you men think about? No, not really. Baseball would be far down the list. Very far. I give up, Beth said. Do you think women are that much different? Tell me, what do you women think about? What occupies the most space in your mind? We think about men sometimes, but we don't obsess over them. First of all, Mike said, I don't obsess over anyone. Second, I bet you think about men more than you let on. If it makes you happy to believe that, then I'm not going to be the one to burst your bubble. Okay then, we agree. Beth laughed, shook her head, and said, You got me. I don't know how to respond to that. Let's just focus on enjoying the rest of our time together, Mike said. Sounds good to me. Mike drove Beth back to her cabin when they finished eating the pizza. She kissed him once and got out. Before she closed the door, she said, I enjoyed our time together. I will see you before I leave tomorrow. I look forward to it, Mike said. When Beth entered her cabin, she found a contact in her phone and dialed the number. Hey, it's Beth, she said. I need everything you can find on a Michael Bauer. He's a park ranger at Shenandoah National Park. Thanks. Falling Star continues on the next video. For more information on this book and others by this author, please visit charleshuss.com.